week on Prepping 2.0.
This stuff is real, you guys. This stuff really happens, and you need to look no further than the South Africa riots to see how every single one of the items we're talking about is going to really benefit you and your family.
When disaster strikes, will you be prepared? This is Prepping 2.0 with authors and prepping experts Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher.
Online at prepping2-0.com.
Get ready. Prepping 2.0 coming in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everyone. This is Shelby Gallagher over here at Prepping 2.0. Welcome, everyone. I want to say hello to you and hello to my co-host on this show and co-host in life, Glenn Tate.
Well, hello. Hey, we have the conclusion, part 7 of 7, to our rundown and color commentary on the top 100 things to get first. These are, of course, we have so many new listeners. I feel like I need to mention this. They may not have heard the previous ones. This is based on a list from Bosnia survivors about their observations about the top 100 things that ran out the quickest in stores, and we have interpreted that to mean the top 100 things to get and to have because they will go the quickest, and you can't just count on sauntering down to the store and getting it. But before we get into that, I wanted to mention very briefly, if you listen to this on the radio, but you're not a Patreon member, then I guess you're a lurker, and you need to come out of the shadows. And so what we mean by that is you're lurking, you're like, hey, I hear so much about this awesome after show, but $2 a month is like too high of a hurdle for me, to get into the after show. I don't know. I think it's worth $2 to be in the after show. It's particularly true with the top 100 list we're doing, where we'll do, say, 10 or 15 items in the regular show, and we just keep going in the after show, and there'll be like 7, 8, 9, 10 in the after show, and then we pick it up again in the regular show. So if you're not a Patreon member, supporter, you're not getting the full show. I think it's as simple as that. So we'd love to have you as a Patreon. There's a big orangish, reddish button thing on the homepage, which is prepping2-0.com. And you can click on that. It says how to become a Patreon. It'll tell you all about it. It's super simple. A couple thousand of you have already done it. 1,000, actually, of you have already done it. So we would welcome you into that family.
And just a quick reminder to our Patreon supporters, goodie bags, we have not forgotten about you. We'll be doing the sign-ups here really soon, so keep an eye out on your messages over there on Patreon as well as your email box. We'll be getting that going here soon. Just know we're doing moving right now in 3 dimensions, so it's a little bit...
And when she says moving, she means relocating to Montana, by the way. Again, so many new listeners that we feel like we need to bring them back up to speed. And everything's a little bit chaotic now. But what? The show must go on.
The show must go on.
Because why? Because we love everybody that listens to the show.
And just to give you an update on that, today, this recording is the last recording in this studio. When we conclude today, Joel and I are going to disassemble this.
Pack it on up.
And pack it on up and haul it over the mountains, man. So then whatever the next episode is that we record, we've banked several so that we can have some time to make this smooth and transition smoothly. But yeah, things are happening. We're getting to the kind of the culmination of this move, and it feels really good. I know Glenn and I are a little exhausted. So thank you to all of you for your thoughts and prayers and support that you've shouted out to us. We really appreciate it.
Before we launch into the next items, which we're going to start with number 84, and we're going to run all the way to 100. Before we do that, Shelby, would you give a mention to 2 or 3 of our sponsors?
Yes, we have great sponsors. Want to give a quick shout out to New Manna Foods. Boy, talk about a good prep right now with what we're seeing with inflation and supply line issues. Encourage you to go check them out. You can find all of our sponsors at prepping2-0.com over on the Friends and Affiliates link. Bulk freeze-dried food. Lots of it, freeze-dried for deep, last for decades kind of food. Use the coupon code PREP, all lowercase, at checkout, and you get 10% off your order.
That's right. We also have Katie Armour, C-A-T-I. Is that the guy's daughter's name? Nope. It stands for Come and Take It Armor. They make steel body plates, body armor, with anti-spall coating. It's a great, cost-effective way to get into the body armor world, which you should. You should have an unfair advantage. You should be better equipped than your opponents, and steel body armor is one way to do that. Go to Katie Armour, C-A-T-I, armor.com, and use the coupon code GRANT, and you're going to get 10% off. And that's a nice little chunk of change, and it's something that Katie Armour is cool enough to do for our listeners. How about one more, Shelby? Lightning round, go.
One more. Jared Savick, one of our great supporters. We had him on as a guest around the beginning of 2021. He and his lovely wife, they are realtors in the Kalispell, Montana area, as well as preppers. And they have a really good idea what it takes to have a good prepping property, whether you want something that's turnkey, build something yourself, whether you're in town there in Kalispell, out of town, or way out of town. They can really help you with that. A great way to reach them is at Seize the Day Montana. That's seizethedaymt.com. And when you send them an email, tell them that Glenn and Shelby sent you.
That's right. They're one of us, and we like keeping our business within the family, so to speak. So
if you know what I mean.
Please do it. Well, we are now going to get into our list. We're going to start with number 84. Shelby, odds or evens? Which do you want?
I'll take evens.
Okay, so then I guess you'll start off with 84.
I will. Number 84, socks, underwear, t-shirts, etc. Make sure you have clothes. And I would venture to even say many of these, well, one in particular, underclothes. Make sure you have them.
You got to have extras of stuff because you just can't go to the store and get them. And so you're going to need extras. You know, the stuff you have on hand is probably not going to make it through 1 or 2 year or 3 year kind of situation, so you're going to need that. And there we go. So technical issues fixed. Thank you, Shelby. She's like the wizard of this stuff. You know, it's like, oh, you're the man, you should know how to do it. Nope, I don't. She does it way better than me, so kudos to her.
Yay me.
One of the things about t-shirts and socks and underwear, extremely plentiful, extremely cheap, extremely easy to store. So don't rummage through the dresser of the gang guys that you had to kill to get underwear, because I'm guessing the gang guys underwear is kind of yucky and I wouldn't really want to wear it. So get yourself some new one. I want to mention the South African riots, and this actually fits into what we're talking about. We talked about the Bosnian top 100 list. There are some severe riots going on. By the time this airs, the riots will either be extinguished or will be even worse, and they'll be in a full civil war in South Africa. South Africa is very similar to the United States in a lot of ways. South Africa is ahead of the United States about 10 years in this terrible idea that they have in South Africa and that the current regime in this country has of a racialized democracy, not a republic, which is what we're supposed to have, but a racialized democracy where you pit groups against each other and you get their votes and all of that. This isn't a show about South Africa. I just wanted to mention that our heart goes out to the people of South Africa. There are some very prepared folks in South Africa, probably listen to this show, and they are probably prepared with this top 100. So I just wanted to mention this. This stuff is real, you guys. This stuff really happens, and you need to look no further than the South Africa riots to see how every single one of the items we're talking about is going to really benefit you and your family.
Well, and I'm going to add, going to the number 84, basic clothing. Folks, supply lines, supply chains right now are breaking down for everything. Mm-hmm. We have a show coming up that's going to lay this out a little bit more. And right now, those riots that we're seeing, not just in South Africa, but in other countries, they're rioting over the lack of food, the lack of clothing. So it's not just, socks, underwear, make sure you got that, for your, to-go bag. No, this is global. And it's what we're seeing, the riots in other countries right now will be us very, very soon in terms of the riots. Now, the racial divide that's in South Africa, yes, they are 10 years ahead of us. But folks, we have a very, very long-term, slow-rolling collapse ahead of us. So make sure you got clean undies, seriously, because it's going to be really awful when you don't have those things. And this is not the time to go shopping at Goodwill. Get packages of good socks, underwear, undershirts, so that you have basic clothing. As
with everything else on this list, the t-shirt and undies and all of that other stuff, also it can be used for bartering. As I like to say, because I like to invent a word every show, and you've heard this word before if you've been listening to the show for a while, these items are barterable. I make up words. You know the cool word I came up with?
I think you made that one up before, though.
Oh, I have. I've used it before. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So the onus is still on you to get another one in today.
Yeah. Okay. I used this on our KHNC show to talk about all the people leaving blue states and going to red states. They are exodizing, as in an exodus that is happening. Exodizing. It kind of sounds like some metal treatment process, doesn't it? Exodizing, or some kind of
oxidizing kind of thing. Yeah,
exodizing. People are exodizing. But hey, we're getting off topic. Don't do that.
Shocking.
Don't do that. We're going to go to number 85.
Number 85. I think we're already experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Lumber. You said wood. No, I said lumber. Lumber is something that you're going to need for a variety of things, fixing things, makeshift things. You got to have it. I will say that lumber is probably one of the things that I can't really say. It's so cheap. Get it now while you can, because it's not cheap.
It's 3 to 4 times the inflation on our American lumber is just insane right now. 3 to 4 times more than it was just 6 months ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
So try to have some. Try to have a source of it. Be thinking about it. It's a thing you need. I don't know if you should run out and start buying wood products now, but you should at least be thinking about it. Yeah. I think that's the best we can say about lumber.
Just, I would say, all around a supply of like 2x4s, just a very common cut of wood. I would keep just a dozen around, just because I think, especially with the current prices. So I'll go in.
It's evens time.
Yep, number 86. Boy, I will attest to this. Wagons and carts.
Oh yeah, you were using one yesterday.
Holy crow! To transport to and from open flea markets. Absolutely. Here's an example.
She wasn't at a flea market.
I was not at a flea market, but at a trading post, you bet. Oh yeah, on our property here in Western Washington, when it's on 5 acres, we have. Not everything is contained in one building. We have shed, we have things all over. And when you have to move something heavy, something with wheels is really handy. We have 2 gorilla carts for that reason.
Love them.
Here's a good example. Talking to someone we know who is in the process of moving as well, and was thinking, he's a prepper like us, talking about being near a water source, and he's really kind of mad because he just moved and he's not near a water source. And he was telling us how his mother was saying, I'll just walk down to the park 2 blocks from here and get water. And he just ripped her one up one side and down the other. Mother, you're 80 years old. Do you think how much water do you think you can carry that far?
8 pounds per gallon.
Yep. And I said, carry a bucket of water just a block. So having wagons or carts or something like that where you can just easily move, you're good.
And all wagons and carts are not created equal. The Little Red Rider thing, that's cool and nostalgic and good for you. What you need...
it's good for the kids.
Is we're big fans of Gorilla Carts. That's a brand name. They have the big, thick tires that are kind of inflated. I call them landscaping tires.
And we abuse ours so much.
Because a lot of landscaping equipment has the big, puffy tires that can go over bumps and rocks and everything like that. They come in various sizes. They've got a little dump feature. You pull a lever and it releases a spring, and you can dump stuff. Another thing to look for, and here's a search term for you guys, would be game carts. And what those are, especially around hunting season, they go on sale. They're $100, $200 in that kind of range. There are these carts that are specifically made for carrying heavy things long distances through the woods, like game or deer or something like that. You can do other stuff with them. They have big wheels. They have a very comfortable handle system. They can be pulled. You can hook them onto a backpack, for example, some of them. Go look for game carts and see what you come up with. A friend of mine in the special operations community, I've never been in the military. I'm not trying to claim coolness by association because I'm not cool, told me about the usefulness that his crew found these things to be off in some other country. And you can't beat it. So game carts are really important. If you look at just even for a few seconds at video from Bosnia and other places, you're going to see people pushing and pulling carts around. And it's a big deal. And here's the thing, guys, you can have stuff, and if you can't get it to where you need to have it, it's like you don't have it.
Right.
So, transportation is kind of the missing element in a lot of plans. And you can solve that relatively inexpensively. And you can do it now in peacetime while these things exist. One of the cool features of some game carts, not all of them, but many of them, they fold up. So you can carry them on a backpack. So they're very light and they're very portable. So you can walk to where you need to be with the cart, assemble the cart easily, and haul stuff back. So That is a big, big deal. And you can see why this list is so important. I mean, who really would think of carts and things like that? Because in America, we just drive, right? The only time we have wagons are like little kid wagons. And like is it Red Ryder? Is that what it is? Or is it the
No,
Red?
it's not Red Ryder. That's a BB
Red
gun.
Wagon?
It's Red Wagon, and there's something else in that title. I know.
Oh, well, but don't get that.
Red Flyer?
Red Flyer.
Flyer.
Radio Flyer.
There you go.
There you go. So there you go. On to number 87, which is an odd number, as our audience will know. I guess that's me, isn't it?
That's you.
It's me. Cots and inflatable mattresses for extra guests. Holy Toledo, is this important?
Yes.
I feel, Shelby, we are very well stocked up in this department, especially with inflatable mattresses. There are a lot of cool inflatable mattresses now. They inflate with a little bit of electricity, so I think you could run them on a battery bank. It's pretty low power draw, and you only have to do it a couple times, and it's way easier than the other ways. They've really come down in price. I think that they've really manufacturers have kind of invented a wheel here where it's a pretty sturdy, stable air mattress. Don't cheap out. The air mattresses that are $100, $200, $300 are probably where you need to be. I will just tell you the cheaper air mattresses, maybe it's because I'm about 230 pounds. By the end of the night, I'm on the floor. I crush those things, and they just don't work. I just don't even use them. I don't consider it to be a solution. So put some money into some good, really solid air mattresses. I know Amazon has some. I want to say they're $200-$300. They come with an electric motor. We've used them, and after several uses, dozens of uses, they start to get holes and stuff. But what can you do? And do you have anything to add to inflatable mattresses? I have thoughts on cots. Get it? Thoughts on cots. I like eating apricots.
So going back to the mattresses,
I should be a rapper.
I do think the ones that are
Okay.
The ones that are higher end definitely have a longer shelf life.
We're tired, you guys. We are exhausted.
Longer shelf life for sure, and can handle above average weights, as opposed to, and what you and I have done for the last several years. We've had the inflatable mattresses, and then the teenagers, when they have a sleepover and they get used, and after a couple of years, we just took a couple to the dump, and we've bought a couple more for the teenagers to use. But I think the higher end ones, you're going to have higher weight capacity, as well as they're just sturdier. So this is camping time of year. This is the time of year when you'll probably find them more choices. I also think this is one of those items that in this whole retail world of supply chain issues, keep in mind, and we have I'm going to give a teaser. And I'm saying this, I'm just going to let you guys know. I did a recent interview, and a recent update interview with Dan, the food industry guy.
Well, that's the show that played last week.
Right. You bet. So, and the reason I'm kind of hesitating is that with all that's going on, the show order has mixed up in my mind, and I'm thinking, is he before this week or after this week? But and he talks about very specifically retailers in general, and we've noticed this, are scaling back their choices.
They're reducing inventory. Because of supply lines and costs and all of that. I could see this because of the ingredients that go into mattresses, rubber, and I could just see that being one of those things that gets scaled back by a retailer. That's just my hunch. There you go. Yeah. Thoughts on cots. I don't think you can beat Army cots.
No,
they are amazing.
They're awesome.
They're kind of getting harder and harder to find. They are really, really good, you guys. They're my number one favorite.
Yes, I prefer those over an inflatable mattress just because there's less chance of just failure.
I also like Cabela's makes some cots that are, I think it's like $105 or so in that range. And I've had really good luck with them. Here's what I've had bad luck with. These are cots to avoid, in my opinion. Coleman comes to mind, and I'm sure there are other brands that are really hard to set up. You have to like stretch them like crazy.
Would you lose a fingertip when you do?
Yeah, it's kind of it's bordering on impossible. I mean, it can be done, but it's like 20 minutes of frustration, and I really dislike that. Yet again, and they're like $50. Yet again, $50 more gets you a cot that can actually be assembled in a reasonable way. You might want to try some cots, buy one, try it, and then get a bunch of them. Cots are invaluable. I find sleeping on an army cot to be very comfortable, to be quite honest.
And they can handle, especially the higher end ones, can handle the weight.
They sure can. We're going to address some sponsors here before we go into our second segment. I would like to talk about EMP Shield. They make a device that will protect whatever it's wired into, and it's very simple to install the wiring. Even I can do it, so what does that tell you? They protect a device from the surge after an EMP or a coronal mass ejection. And they've been very popular. They've been tested. The military and other branches of the U.S. government have bought a whole bunch of them, which tells me something. I mean, I don't think they would buy things that completely didn't work. So if you're worried about EMPs and solar mass ejections, coronal mass ejections, as you should be concerned, this is a thing. And you can hook it up to a generator or, your house, your main wiring, a vehicle, something like that, ham radio setup. So that's why you would do that. So you go into their website, empshield.com. You type in the coupon code Prepping 2.0. You're going to get $50 off each device. They're like $300 for each device. So I tell you that because that gives you a sense of whether $50 is worth it. If it's $50 off $1,000, probably not worth it, but this is a significant and real discount.
Great.
Who else do we have?
Backwoods Home Magazine. Love those folks.
We have to do the forwarding address thing.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We need to do that really soon.
I'll get right on that.
Backwoods Home Magazine. I just packed up recently our big stack that was kind of shelved underneath our coffee table, that we keep those on hand. We do not throw them away. I'm sorry, we don't recycle them because they are just a repository of great information regarding prepping, regarding homesteading, self-defense, recipes.
A lot of how-to, a lot of diagrams about how to build stuff.
Oh my goodness. A lot of interviews and discussions with people who've done it, that not just, all the big names out there in the industry kind of a thing. Love them. If you go check them out and you decide to get a subscription, be sure to use 6 off and you'll get $6 off your subscription. That's the digit 6 and then OFF.
I would also like to talk about Minute Men, plural, coffee.
I haven't had much of that today.
And I can feel it, man.
My goodness.
I can tell. Minute Men Coffee, they are the exclusive brewers of the I Miss America blend, the official coffee of Prepping 2.0. I think that's pretty cool.
I do too.
Patriots run this company. These are solid dudes that I knew before all of this started, for whatever that's worth, and they are expanding. New roasting building.
The roasting cart, I predict when we go to the Panhandle Inland Preparedness Expo in
August
Sandpoint.
2nd and 3rd, 2021 in Sandpoint, Idaho.
You mean October?
What did I say?
You said August. I do the same thing.
Oh,
and we're also
October.
tired. And we haven't had any Minutemen today. That cart, that coffee cart, we're gonna have so much fun at that expo.
Hey, let's steal it. Let's hitch it up to our thing and drive away with it.
Don, if you're listening, you won't even know. It's all good. You love us.
The other sponsor I wanted to mention is, speaking of exodizing, if you're going to Tennessee, and it's a doggone good state to look at, by the way, you should go and talk to Lizzie McDaniel, our redstate-realtors.com realtor for Tennessee. She's knocking it out of the park. She's one of us. She's a patriot. She gets it. You're not going to be just opening up the phone book of reference to yellow pages for the millennials
big,
and Gen Zers
that your kids use as a booster.
You can see in a museum somewhere, or you may see in old movies. But anyway, she's not a random person, is my point. So I think you're going to like that. Well, stick around, everybody. In segment 2, we're going to have more of the top 100.
More of Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher is coming right up. Hear all our previous shows free online at prepping2-0.com.
PrepperNet, where preppers unite. Looking to meet other like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own prepper group? Already have a group? Join PrepperNet.com. PrepperNet has gathered the biggest names in the industry to help unite preppers everywhere. Join John Jacob Schmidt, Scott Hunt, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, Glenn Tate, Shelby Gallagher, Charlie Hogwood, Samuel Culper, Survivor Jane, Rick Austin, Franklin Horton, Ryan Mitchell, and Brian Duff. Our team is united. Check us out at PrepperNet.com. PrepperNet, where preppers unite. PrepperNet.com.
Prepping 2.0 is about that next level of prepping. One of the key 2.0 items to have is bulletproof body armor plates. I used to think body armor was too tactical for a regular guy like me. but it isn't. Give yourself, your family, and your team an unfair advantage when bullets are flying. Body armor used to be expensive and hard to get. Not anymore. KD Armor, and that stands for Come and Take It, makes solid and affordable body armor for normal people. Get body armor while you can. The clowns in Congress are trying to prohibit future sales. KD Armor is the place to get it. CATI Armor.com. Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount when you use the coupon code GRANT.
Abe Lincoln here. In 1773, patriots broke the chains of British tyranny by throwing tea into Boston Harbor. On that day, Americans began drinking coffee. We celebrate that event daily here at Minutemen Coffee. All men are created equal. Coffee is not. Minutemen Coffee is roasted to perfection in small batches. Bold, smooth, and never bitter. Shipped to you fresh daily. Whole bean, ground, or our patented pods. www.MinutemenCoffee.com.
When the grid goes down, darkness will descend fast. Used to be there was nothing you could do about an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or CME, coronal mass ejection. Now you can protect your electronics, protect your family, thanks to EMP Shield. EMP Shield invented a simple-to-install device that prevents whatever's connected to it from frying in an EMP or CME, and it costs just a few $100s. EMP Shield has been tested by independent laboratories and passed muster with the government, which has ordered lots of them. Google EMP Shield and see for yourself. And save some money. Get a $50 discount per device. Go to prepping2-0.com. Click on the Friends and Affiliates page, then click on the EMP Shield logo. At checkout, use coupon code PREPPING2.0. It's all one word.
Shelby Gallagher here. We found that you need to layer your food preps.
Yeah, this is Glenn Tate here. A lot of times the hardest part of layering is the long-term foods. We love Numana Foods, which have a 25-year shelf life and are non-GMO. Also, organic meals are available.
Numana comes in family-style portions and in bulk. This is not backpacking food. It's family meals that last for at least 25 years. The perfect freeze-dried part of your food layering.
You can get a sample of Numana meals for $19.95 and see for yourself. You will be amazed.
Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount by entering the code PREP.
Go to Numana.com or click the link on the Prepping 2.0 website.
Give it a try. Numana.com. That is NUMANNA.com.
Now, more of Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher.
Welcome back, everyone. Shelby Gallagher here over at Prepping 2.0 with my co-host and co-host in life, Glenn Tate. By the way,
yes,
happy anniversary, Glenn.
Happy anniversary. Aww. This is our wedding anniversary some number of years ago. We won't tell you how many. And it's a wonderful thing. I have to admit, okay, going to be honest, transparency's here. Today we've been dealing with so many things. We had, a broken down vehicle. We've had 4 major auto repairs in the past week or two, I think.
2 weeks, but there's been like 5 in the last month.
Yeah. Here's my theory on that, by the way. I don't think I've shared this with you, so I might as well share it with
why not?
10,000 strangers. They're actually not strangers, especially the Patreons. But I think God has his hand in this, and here's what I think's going on. First of all, with one exception, all of these major breakdowns have occurred at our house or, in one case, a block away from our mechanics. So they're not happening out on the road. We've been going back and forth between Washington and Montana, hauling loads pretty much every week for several months now. So the breakdowns are in the right place. And here's what I think's going on.
And the odds are that they should be happening out there and not close to home.
Right, like in 100-degree weather when you're going up a mountain pass. Here's my theory on that. I think God has a hand in this, and here's why. He's like, you know what? Let's take today's example. Battery died in a Ram truck. It was 11 years old. It was an 11-year-old battery.
And we just had the Ram serviced, like a major repair last week.
Exactly. I think God is like, hey, Glenn, knucklehead, listen to me. You don't listen sometimes. Come on, listen up. You guys, for what's happening in the future, for what you're going to need for this collapse, you're going to need a battery in this truck that works. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to annoy you by making it not work on a Saturday. And you can just run and get a battery and put it in and it'll be simple. But here's the thing, Glenn, you knucklehead. Mm-hmm. You need to have a battery that works. I think God is making us repair stuff now so that it works later.
Absolutely.
I really do.
And he's making it convenient repair. And the other thing that we're running into where we are here, where we are in Western Washington, is supply chain stuff and
labor shortages,
and the labor shortage,
aka laziness.
In other words, we can't on another vehicle. I had to book it in a weird
6 weeks
way
out?
because of it's crazy. So and we're like, we don't have 6 weeks because in 6 weeks we're not going to be here anymore. Isn't that crazy?
Exactly.
All right, enough about us.
Okay, enough about us.
Number 88: gloves, work, warming, gardening, etc. Yes, 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 and yes.
Mm-hmm.
We know this just from living life in a rural community. We use gloves. I use gloves when I'm moving stuff because I'm tired of my hands getting chopped up from scratches and whatnot and bruised. Use gloves. I recently bought for this last winter because I was working outside a lot in like seriously cold. Got tired of my fingertips getting cold. I bought thermal gloves that have a battery pack in them that warm your hands. Mm-hmm. That was kind of nice. Mm-hmm. I recommend all of those things. And again, I think we're going to run into supply chain issues on this if we haven't already, and the costs are going to go up. Not only for keeping your hands warm, but protected. A good solid pair of just leather gloves. Women, get some that are women's sizes so you have a good fit.
If you're a woman.
And also some good, what are the gloves, the brand gloves that we use for shooting firearms?
Mechanics.
Yes.
Mechanics wear gloves. I will put a big, huge exclamation point on gloves for a variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. First of all, what's the problem to be solved? The problem to be solved, that's always a good starting point for any analysis. The problem to be solved is cutting your hand and getting an infection and dying a painful, needless death. That is the problem to be avoided. One of the best ways to do that is not get cut in the first place. Mm-hmm. And your hands touch everything. You know, you're unlikely to come in contact with things, you know, with like your knee or, I don't know, your shoulder or something like that. Odds are.
Shelby has a thing with cutting up her shoulders, but we're not going to. That's me. I'm weird.
Yeah. But the thing you touch, the thing you use to touch things the most would be with your hands. And there's gloves. Gloves are inexpensive, and you need to size them correctly. This is important. They're pretty good. They come in sizes now. They used to be like one size fits all. A couple things about gloves. They're for various things. One is for warmth, which is obvious, and you should have those. You should consider waterproof gloves if you're in snow or rain, because that's a big deal. I am a big, huge fan, as in I won't do this activity without the proper gloves, of shooting gloves for a couple reasons. There are all kinds of little nicks and metal things, and there's heat. If you run an AK, and I do, you absolutely need at least a left-handed glove that is minimally heat resistant. I'm a big fan of Nomex, Nomex, which is a material in military, usually Air Force gloves for aviators. It's heat and flame resistant. It's more flame resistant than heat resistant, but it works pretty well for heat resistance. You need to look like Michael Jackson and have one glove, and it needs to be on your left hand, because when you grip the gas port part of the rifle, the front part of the rifle where the wood handle is on the front, it gets really hot because all the hot gases are going through it. And so if you watch, serious AK dudes will always have either a pair of gloves or the ones who are trying to be like Michael Jackson, except that one part of Michael Jackson's life we don't talk about. They're going to have a left-handed glove on. You'll notice operators, I mean, just look at pictures. They always have gloves. You know, you get a little carabiner thing and you clip them together. They always have a pair of gloves nearby. Anyone that thinks, and I've run into this in decades, so this probably isn't a thing. Anyone who thinks gloves are for sissies or something, you're out of your mind. Now that splinter is kind of a inconvenience. It can end up killing you completely unnecessarily with an infection. So you guys have to have gloves. You have to try different gloves. And here's the thing. One kind of glove does not fit all. You're going to need warm gloves. You're going to need weather-resistant gloves, water-resistant gloves. You're going to need work gloves. I go to Costco and get a 3-pack of leather gloves for like $18. They're amazing. I always, true or false, Shelby, lightning round, do I or do I not always have a pair of leather gloves in my truck?
You do.
Yes, because I use them all the doggone time. Gardening gloves are important and all of that. You should have 4 or 5 different kinds of gloves, and you should have quite a few of them, because if you lose one, they're kind of useless unless it's a left-handed one and it's for an AK.
Well, and to add to that, the gardening gloves, the ones that have that rubberized, I use those for not just gardening. I use those for just protection. So I have the good tactile sensation. Those you can buy like a 12-pack at Costco for super cheap. The other thing I think we all learned from 2020, have a good supply box of nitrile gloves. We all learned how to be somewhat
latex rubber gloves.
Yeah,
for like
latex rubber gloves that are protective against germy things. We all became germaphobes and learned how to keep things sanitized
for about 2 weeks.
In 2020, it's good to, when we're in a collapse and we need to have a little bit of protection, dressing someone's wound or something, it's good to have those on hand as well. So I think we killed it on gloves and all kinds. You're on to number 89, and this
number
is
89.
your bailiwick.
All right, everybody. It's going to be a 2-hour discussion. Nerd Talk starts right about now.
Oh, my word.
Solar panels. Solar panel kits, small for charging batteries and devices. We've covered in other things. By the way, there's a video bonus show with Seth Hansen from, geez Louise, I'm forgetting it.
Oh my God!
Film Solar.
Thank you.
Power
oh my
Film
gosh!
Solar.
Yeah, and we did a show with him as well.
I know we did.
Like
and
about 2 years ago.
Film Solar is a great company. They make mil-spec stuff for the military and other folks. That's kind of a big foldable fabric rollout thing. It's larger. It's for, it's 60 watt, 100 watt, 120 watt sort of things. That's a bigger use. What we're talking about here with little solar panel kits are, as the list says, charging batteries and devices. A lot of them on Amazon don't work very long. I suggest PowerFilm Solar has a small solar charging thing that's amazing. It's really good. They're made in America, among other things. A lifetime guarantee. And again, the military buys them. So those guys don't goof around. When you're in the middle of, I was going to say Afghanistan, but I guess we left. When you're in the middle of Detroit doing operations, kidding.
Or Chicago.
Or Chicago.
Yeah, there you go.
You can't have these things fail. So I don't know. Get the Amazon ones for $12 if you want, but just don't count on them. Maybe that's for like home use. There are all kinds of good ones. Goal Zero makes some very good smaller charging units. You have to have it. One of the cool things that's happened in technology is that everything seems to be getting standardized for power purposes with USB and USB micro and mini and all those USB-C and all these things. So, I mean, there's a couple variations, but now it's pretty much universal that just about everything can be charged with a USB, which means if you have a solar charger that has a USB output, you can charge a ton of stuff. Why is this a good idea? Well, you're going to need a phone, although I think having a phone is a terrible idea in one of these settings because people can find you. You're going to have small devices. You're going to have map reading equipment. You're going to have a million things. A lot of flashlights, by the way, now are USB rechargeable. And having a solar charger to recharge these things is a great idea. Now, here's the downside to all of this. Most of the chargers, if it's a little thing like the size of a postcard, and for Gen Z and millennial folks, those are little pieces of paper people used to write on and send in the postal service, which is the people in blue shirts who deliver packages to people. So that's what that is. But about postcard size, and it takes forever to charge these things. So don't expect too much out of a little teeny device for $20. Don't expect it to, power your Tesla, because it ain't going to work. So that's why I suggest medium-sized systems. Again, PowerFilm Solar, Goal Zero. There are other good ones out there. If it's from Jingshuang Industries, kind of stay away from it. If it's made in America, that's what you're going to want because it's going to last and it's going to produce. It's really important to look and see how many watts the thing, what kind of power that the solar panel puts out, and then what kind of power your device uses. Sorry, but you kind of got to learn these things. It's one of the things you need to know because I just presumed that these little postage stamp size little chargers would charge my phone in 5 minutes, and that's not the case. So you got to have these things. Now's the time to get them. I think they're enormously valuable to you and to a mutual assistance group. I think they would be dynamite items for barter, and I highly recommend. Do you have anything to add to solar panels?
I don't.
You just were like geek out.
Yeah.
Geek out,
well,
Glenn.
and you're in charge of that's on your
kind of a
responsibility list in the Tate Gallagher household.
I've learned geekiness from that well, I was always a geek, but I've learned it on this topic because it's so important.
It is. Well, I'll go to the next one.
Yes.
Number 90, screen patches, glue, nails, screws, nuts, and bolts.
Yeah.
Yes. Here's what I encourage you to do. Anytime it's happened to me in this move. I had to buy some screws to fix this cabinet, to this, and you use one screw out of a little envelope of like 8. Keep what's left, throw it in a tub.
Keep them in its original packaging because they'll have the size on it and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And we've done that. And as a result, we have a tub
of screws
that weighs about
the screw tub
weighs more than me. It's incredibly heavy, but I'll tell you what, there's times I'm like, just throw them away. No, these will be very, and there have been times we've used them, we've tapped into them, but just, and if you want, that's one of these things, if you don't have any or access, just go to Harbor Freight. They sell these little sampler packs that have a few of all these kind of common sizes. Harbor Freight, whatever. Get some so you just have some on hand. Again, this is going to be one of those, I see it happening very soon actually with supply chains and availability, back orders. We're starting to see it. It's going to get worse. So get a supply now.
Also mentioned in number 90 is glue. Get a variety of glues. Wood glue, and it dries up after a while. So don't just think, I got some wood glue back in the 90s. I'm sure it'll be fine. No, it's going to be a big hard as a rock thing. And nails. Here's a fun fact about nails. I mentioned this years ago on this show when we did number 90, when we would do the one of the top 100 a day. Back in the old days, like Little House on the Prairie, 1800s days, when somebody would abandon a house, they would often light it on fire if they didn't need it and wait for everything to cool and come back and get the nails. The nails were that valuable. That really says it all. Can't have too many of them. And nuts and bolts for sure. There are going to be many, many items, really critical items that won't function except for some random nut and bolt that you may have. So hopefully it's your stuff that you're getting back into operating condition. It might be somebody else's in a mutual assistance group. These items are all very small. They don't take up a lot of storage space. They're pretty inexpensive. And get the sampler packs. Yeah. And it's not on this list, but speaking of sampler packs and just having stuff, I would add to that fuses, electrical fuses, automobile fuses, all kinds of stuff like that. Those also come in sampler packs and work pretty well. Number 91, we are just cruising along, aren't we? Number 91, getting towards the end. It's going to be sad when we're done with this top 100 list. It's like, it's kind of like the end of an era, a 7-episode era.
And I will add this too. We're going to keep kind of cycling it one at a time through our shows, because I was thinking about this last week. It's so important, and it's so important is for what we have ahead of us, folks. I think we all agree we're on a slow roll of a collapse here. It's going to take a lot to do to make this corrected, and we're in it. We're going that direction. We need to always keep this sort of a list at the front of our minds.
Another reason to keep going over these, first of all, there's 100 of them. If you go over one per show, that takes 2 years, right? So
based on a true story.
In the 2 years in between hearing about nails, you might have forgotten, and it's kind of a refresher thing. It kind of you hit the refresh button and you go, oh, geez, I do need to get some nails. The other cool thing is if it's one thing per week, you can probably swing getting some nails and screws and nuts and bolts this week, as opposed to here's 100 things, get them tomorrow.
Well, and I think it actually, here's a challenge. As we go through this list one at a time, once we go back to doing one at a time each week, whatever we say, here's a challenge. If you don't have it, get it. Yeah. That's your challenge.
Yep.
And the other thing I think we've recognized in this, because we outside of this series, when we do this, once every year and a half to 2 years, it gives us that moment of reflection where you look back and go, man, stuff has changed so much since we visited this topic the last time, right?
Oh, totally. So mileposts and markers. Exactly. So number 91, tease, T-E-A-S, not T-E-A-Z-E, the bad guy character.
T-E-E-Z.
T-E-E-Z, the bad guy character in A Great State, Shelby's Amazing Book series, and that character is based on a real guy. Name was changed to prevent a defamation lawsuit. Shelby has excellent legal advice. So anyway, teas. Notice that's plural. Get all kinds of different teas. Maybe you're not a tea drinker. That's cool. A lot of people are, number one. Number two, a lot of people are going to be tea drinkers when there's no coffee. We'll get into that more in a moment. tea has this amazing soothing effect on people. It's a great way, if water tastes yucky, you can heat it up and the tea kind of masks it. That's why they drink tea all over the world. What do you think? Afghanistan, they love tea in Afghanistan. Do you think it's because they have crystal clear water and they really kind of have choices? No, they have gross water and they need tea. You can get tea so cheaply now. You can get it in individual servings in tea bags. I know the dollar store, for example, has 100 tea bags, green tea, black tea, sort of Americanized kind of Lipton tea, I guess brown tea I would call it. 100 of them for $1. And I did the math before the show. I got my calculator out. That's a penny a piece.
Yeah.
And you can't really go wrong. It doesn't take up a lot of space. They don't really go bad. If they're exposed to air, tea bags or tea is exposed to air for a while, it doesn't get toxic. It just kind of loses its zing. So be sure and vacuum seal them. You can't go wrong. One of the characters in 299 Days used tea as a soothing, normalizing thing. It was a bit of sort of a loud normalcy bias. It was a way to calm one of the characters, and she could say, well, things aren't totally goofed up and topsy-turvy because I can still have a cup of tea in the morning, and that was very important. And I'm not denigrating that at all. I'm saying it is indeed important, and I think a lot of us are going to become tea drinkers because I think tea is going to be more prevalent than coffee in what's coming. And so push yourself a little bit and get some different flavors. You don't have to try them now because you know what? You're going to love them later on. I mean, don't overthink it. Get all the tea you can. I'm a big fan of tea bags, but it doesn't have to be in tea bags. There's a million ways to do it, but make it convenient and kind of single serving. Yes, dear.
So same in my books. There is a little bit of a storyline where it's kind of the family time around the table is to use tea bags and drink tea and reuse them in times of rationing. You can reuse a tea bag. It was interesting a few years ago, Floyd, my father, I say Floyd, that's what
his name in the book.
His name in my books is. He and his wife visited, and I opened a drawer.
The real Floyd visited.
The real Floyd is actually married for the second time. And I opened a drawer where I have a whole selection of tea that I've collected.
It's kind of impressive.
It is impressive. And then I have a whole nother box that she didn't see of all the teas. Like when you travel, we went to a tea plantation when we were in the South recently, and I buy some tea. And it doesn't go bad if you keep it in a cool, dry place. It does not go bad. And she looked at me and said, "Yeah, 200 years ago, Shelby." That's not my real name. That's not what she said. You'd be a rich woman. Tea used to be a sign of wealth because it was a way that the wealthy would flavor their water, like you were saying. Encourage you to do it too, because many times tea has those healing qualities. Antioxidants, little slight zing of caffeine if you drink black tea. Rosehip tea, very healing. Vitamin C,
like on steroids.
It is. And if you want to, if you're into this kind of bushcrafty foraging thing, if you harvest rose hips from nature, you make a tea out of it and you're drinking vitamin C. So I think it's good to have on hand. And it is stupid cheap for the most part, unless you buy like a super, kind of shishi kind of a brand. But yeah, Lipton tea bags are pretty awesome. I have some that are several years old and you cannot tell. We love iced tea in the summer. We make a big thing of sun tea, throw that over ice and a little, oh my gosh, that just is refreshing for us. So yeah, I encourage you. It's a cheap way to just feel normal. I'm going to go on to the next one.
It was made for you, dear.
Number 92, baby cakes. It's coffee.
Woo!
I have had many of our fans ask us, what are you going to do to prep for coffee and eclipse? Because it's not like I can go, grow coffee beans in my greenhouse. You know what, folks? There's a couple ways. One, I thank you to Minuteman Coffee. We have a gross metric ton of it, which is awesome. You can buy our brand as well as some of our merch on our website, 2Under Shop. I'm going to throw that out there. Buy it and if you buy it in the big bags, don't open it. If you keep it in their sealed, airtight bags, it'll last for a long time. Then there's also for those of us of a certain age, there's those coffee mixes, think international coffees, where it's like you just or instant coffee, or just put it with hot water. I encourage you to do that as well. That instant coffee, as gross as it is, still gives you that zing of caffeine that you want. And then at some point, I just know that I'm going to be probably switching to tea for my caffeine intake. What are your thoughts?
Couple of them. Instant coffee is not necessary now, but it's going to be enormously convenient later, so consider it. We are a big fan of something that may be hard to get where you live, so sorry.
Yeah, it could be regional more than anything, yeah.
Vietnamese coffee. And what it is, it's a little packet. It's not so little. It's like twice the size.
It's like the size of a tea bag.
Yeah, but it's pretty stout. And it's got instant coffee. It's got creamer and sugar in it. And it is a magical elixir.
Oh
it is Vietnamese coffee pack. I think it's Cafe Viet off the top of my head. I know it's available. I know it's available on Amazon. Just type in Vietnamese coffee packs. It's not stupid inexpensive, but it's not expensive. I want to say we have a store where we get it, and there's a big Asian population, so they stock these things, and they may not where you live. A 48 pack was like $3, so I mean it's not terrible.
And those are tasty.
And they get a little sugar. It's almost like a dessert with a caffeine buzz.
And we've been like on a cold day. Let's just make some of that. It's a comfort thing. It's adult hot chocolate.
Exactly. And another thought about coffee, but it's not a thought about coffee, is caffeine pills. I'm a big fan of these things.
Yes, you are.
And there are several reasons for it. I'm addicted to caffeine. I can't always drink coffee. Coffee stains my teeth. Right now with my situation, and I'll be vague so I'm not gross, coffee is not a good idea given what I'm going through right now.
With the whole chemo treatment, yeah.
Well, and something else. But anyway, coffee isn't always going to be available or anything. Caffeine is a must. Talk about this in 299 Days about popping caffeine pills. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the same caffeine that's in coffee. I mean, don't abuse it and don't get too carried away. You're going to be staying up a lot. You're going to need to be alert. You're going to be going on patrols.
You're going to be stressed out.
And one of the things you can do now on Amazon, I keep saying Amazon because it's we hate the company, but we live out in the sticks and there's no other way to do this kind of stuff. We just got to order it. You could order hundreds of caffeine pills, 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams, hundreds of them for a few dollars. And I highly recommend it. They take up no space. They don't expire. They don't rot. Nothing like that. And so you're going to want caffeine in some way, caffeine pills or instant coffee. I just looked at the clock. We're going to need to wrap up the regular show, but in the after show, we're going to go through items 93 through 100. There's some really good stuff in here. I hope you're a Patreon, and I hope you get to hear it, because the full show, the full Prepping 2.0 experience, is the regular show and the after show. Shelby, take us out.
Folks, don't forget, from Benjamin Franklin, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Have a great week, everyone.
You've been listening to Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher. All the information you've heard today, including all our previous shows, is online at prepping2-0.com. Find out more about Glenn's books at 299days.com and Shelby's books at agreatstate.com. Until next time, be smart, be safe, and be prepared.